In this episode of the Motor City Hypnotist Podcast, we're going to talk about the father of modern hypnosis, Milton Erickson. And you'll be interested to know there's a connection with Detroit with Mr. Erickson. We'll get to that as the show goes on. And stay tuned as I'm giving away a bunch of free stuff. We'll be right there.
Get ready for the Motor City Hypnotist, David R. Wright, originating from the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan. He has hypnotized thousands of people from all over the United States. David R. Wright has been featured on news outlets all across the country and is the clinical director of an outpatient mental health and hypnosis clinic located just south of Detroit, where he helps people daily using the power of hypnosis. Welcome, the Motor City Hypnotist, David R. Wright.
What is happening, people? It is David Wright, and we are back with another episode of the Motor City Hypnotist Podcast.
Welcome back.
Thanks, Matt.
You're welcome.
With me, as usual, is Matt.
Hey.
Matt Fox.
I'm still here.
He's in the booth. We are here at the Podcast Detroit Northville Studios. For those of you on Facebook watching us live, say hey, and we'll see if we'll see who's there.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My sister's checked in a couple times last couple episodes, and our favorite fan.
Yes. Lance Erickson?
I don't know why I can't think of because he's on all the time.
He'll be back. He'll be here.
Yeah, he'll be here. Yes. I feel bad because I should know his name. And
we're going to get reminded here pretty shortly.
I'm just drawing a blank. Yeah. And maybe he missed this part. So let me tell you, folks, where you can find me. My website is motorcityhypnotist.com. On the website, you can find all the stuff you would usually find on a website, my podcast page, my store page, my shop, I should call it. A lot of different things on there, MP3 recordings, videos of prior shows that I've done. Those might interest people who may have either seen or been in one of my shows. So check out the website. That would be great. You can find me on social media, Facebook and YouTube at Motor City Hypnotist, and Twitter and Instagram, which are both Motor City Hypno.
All right.
I just remembered Alan's name. It's Alan.
It is Alan.
Alan, yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah, it just hit me it's Alan Benson. He always listens in. Yeah. Also, you can find me on Patreon. Patreon is a creator site where people can support the creator through financial contributions. And on my specific channel on Patreon, it's very minimal, like not even... probably a couple bucks. So take a look at that because, again, you can get cool stuff like I'm wearing my T-shirt today. You can see that. Mm-hmm. And my coffee mug. You can also see that.
Yep. You got other. Yep. Right in front of you.
Right one.
Yeah,
other one.
There you are.
Sorry, I'm camera challenged. Since we're doing a podcast, I have to worry about cameras. But
hey, you got a great face for all of it. So.
I do. Well, yeah, whichever. And as usual, we're giving away a bunch of free stuff, a free hypnosis guide. There'll be a link for that. Also, as we've done since I've actually released this a couple months back, the free Hypnosis for Confidence download. Mm-hmm. And I'm also leaving a link in the note for my private Facebook group, Empower Your Mind for Success. Again, just generally saying that's a group just for people who are looking to make changes to be more successful. A lot of it is sharing episodes of the podcast, talking about specific strategies and things you can implement. It's just kind of a cool group. Right now, I think we have 160 people in that group. So if you want to just pop in there, it's a great supportive group, and we'd love to have you there too.
Cool.
And probably the most important thing, wherever you're listening to the show, whether it be Apple, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, please subscribe to the show and leave a review. I'm guilty of this. I listen to podcasts, but I never subscribe.
Okay.
I'll just go in and I'll I'll just get in my car and I'm like, oh, okay, which podcast on? And I'll just click on the podcast and listen, but I rarely subscribe.
Okay.
Which I should, because I know now, since I'm doing it, that's kind of important.
Even on the Google podcast, you can say, hey, Google, play.
Right.
And then you forget to subscribe.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of things are automated now where, you can just, taught you to the whatever your car's automated system is that links to your phone. And so I know it's not convenient sometimes, but yeah, do that. That would help me out and would be great. I would appreciate the support.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So this episode of the Motor City Hypnotist Podcast is brought to you by Banner Season. Online marketing is saturated and people rarely open their emails. Are you in sales or does your business market to customers? How do you connect with family, friends, and clients? Banner Season takes your marketing into the real world by delivering kindness and thoughtfulness directly to your clients physically. Imagine the excitement of your family, friends, and customers as they receive personalized cards and gifts in their mailboxes. Go to bannerseason.com/fantastic and begin today to express kindness and make connections with others. Again, that's bannerseason.com/fantastic. And I will leave that link in the show notes as well. Again, I've pushed this before on the podcast, not pushed it, but suggested it. But it's a really good program because it helps you. You could set up a whole year's worth of cards or gifts and not have to think about it again.
Until the next year.
Yeah, until the next year. Or you can just leave it indefinite.
Oh, wow.
If you just if you join up, you just leave it on and just
make sure you
saves a lot of work.
Make sure you update it on the norm though, because you never want.
Well,
that
that's
to happen.
true. If somebody,
Yeah.
unfortunately, were to
Just update it.
to get their birthday card.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And just as a disclaimer, I'm an affiliate for that service, so it doesn't affect you, but I do get some remuneration from that.
There you go.
Fantastic. All right.
It is time for...
It's time.
That's how winning is done.
It's one of my most favorite segments. I look forward to this every week.
Yeah, I kind of look forward to looking them up or doing research on them because there's so much. I always preface this, well, not always, but a lot of times I'll preface this part of Winner of the Week by there's so much negative going on and so much conflict and so much hatred and just it's just nice to see that the world totally hasn't gone to hell.
Correct. That's absolutely correct.
It reminded me. I caught the end of the movie Seven. You've seen Seven, haven't you? What's in the box?
What's in the box?
I don't know if you remember the last line of the movie. It was a quote. It's a quote from someone, and I'm not even going to remember the whole quote now.
Okay.
And Morgan Freeman ends the movie with it. And it's something like, I'm going to paraphrase because I can't remember it exactly. The world is a great place, and it's worth fighting for.
Okay.
He says, I agree with the second part.
Yeah.
That's the end of the movie.
That is the end of the movie. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, what's in the box?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, what's in the fucking box?
Oh, my God.
Fantastic. For those, doesn't matter. If you haven't seen that one by now, you're spoiled because that was 20 years ago or so.
Yeah. It's an old movie.
Yeah. So our winners, anyway, are actually inmates.
Okay.
Inmates at the Soledad State Prison in California. So, Palma School, a prep school for boys in Salinas, California, created a partnership with a correctional training facility, CTF, at Soledad State Prison to form a reading group for inmates and high school students. Bringing the two groups together to learn and develop greater understanding of one another. Jim Micheletti, Palma's director of campus ministry, created the program Exercises in Empathy with a focus on compassion, empathy, and restorative justice. The program teams men who have been given life sentences with students to discuss themes found in literature, which has led to more than a few surprises. When one Palma student was struggling to pay his $1,200 monthly tuition after both of his parents suffered medical emergencies, the inmates already had a plan to help. They together raised $30,000 for the student whose parents needed costly medical attention.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I didn't believe it at first, Micheletti said. Micheletti is the student, I believe. They said, we value you guys coming in. We'd like to do something. Micheletti is the the Palma's director of campus ministry. They said, "We value you guys coming in. We'd like to do something for your school. Can you find us a student on campus who needs some money to attend Palma, the school?" The Brothers in Blue raised more than $30,000 from inside the prison to create a scholarship for student Cy Green.
My goodness.
Helping him graduate this year and attend college at the Academy of Art University in San Francisco. Regardless of the poor choices that people make, most people want to take part in something good, said Jason Bryant, a former inmate who was instrumental in launching the scholarship.
Wow.
The guys were eager to do it. There's a little bit more of the story, but I want to hit one more big item. One inmate donated his entire monthly paycheck of $100.
Wow.
I mean, I guess you're in prison.
Yeah.
Everything's covered, but
Yeah.
he gave his whole paycheck for the month of $100 to the cause.
Wow.
And he said, "I get paid to do what I do, so why not pay it forward and give it to someone else for a change?" So yeah.
Wow. You
Cool
know what?
story.
That's pretty darn generous. And,
Yeah.
pretty, forward thinking and out of the box thinking, pun intended.
Yes.
But,
Yes.
but honestly, what a great hearts they have for that.
Yeah. And I know there's a general conception, well, they're inmates. They're not quality human beings, let's say.
Yeah.
But this shows it's a gray line sometimes, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not black or white all the time.
Yeah. I like that. Thank you for
it's a
sharing.
great story.
Yeah.
So good for the student and for the inmates at Soledad State Prison. You're our winners of the week.
That's how winning is done.
Yes, it is.
So, back to it.
So today, we're talking about Milton Erickson.
All right, so educate me
Yes.
and your listeners on...
I will do that on Mr. Erickson, or Milton, as I like to call him, or Uncle Milty.
All right, what does Milton have to say?
So Milton is widely considered the father of modern hypnosis.
Okay.
So let's say in the last 60, 70 years, okay? His teachings and his philosophies are still used by most hypnotists today, most hypnotherapists or hypnotists today. So there's a whole vein of hypnosis and mental health, actually, because he's also he has a master's degree in psychology and he's also an MD. So he started with doing therapy and a type of psychoanalysis similar to Freud's, but a little bit different. But that he developed programs that became more personal and more client focused, and we'll get into those details in a moment.
Like family therapy almost?
Yes, in fact, he developed the family therapy model of as far as working with families for issues.
Okay.
So Erickson was born in 1901, died in 1980.
His birthday
So-
would have been tomorrow.
It would have been. And that the fact that he was alive when I was alive. He was alive when I was in high school.
He passed in 1980. Yes.
And at that time, of course, I was in high school, so I didn't know anything. Maybe I didn't have intro to psych yet or something. But.
I won't tell you how old I was in 1980. Wasn't
Were
in
you
high
even
school.
born?
I wasn't in high school.
Oh, yeah. So Erickson graduated from the University of Wisconsin. Oh, he's a Badger. In 1928 with an MA in psychology, master's degree in psychology, and an MD, and went on to hold senior psychiatric posts in hospitals across the United States. So let me tell you a little bit about, and I don't want to make this a boring history lesson, but what he was challenged with. So he was born in Wisconsin to a farming family. He was stricken with polio at the age of 17, and then again at the age of 51.
Twice.
So he had it twice.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Did he not get the vaccine? I'm just kidding. Go on.
Yeah, right. Well, if he's born in 28, I'm not sure when the polio vaccine came out, but
What?
that would have put him into
I'll have to look that up real quick while you
Yeah.
continue.
Yes, yeah, because if he was born in 28, add 51 to that would have been 72. They should have had the polio. The polio vaccine existed then for sure.
Right.
So maybe he didn't get it. So because he was stricken with polio twice at the age of 17 and 51, by the end of his life, he was confined to a wheelchair. He was also, it sounds like this is made up, but he was colorblind, dyslexic, and tone deaf.
The polio vaccine was not developed until 1955.
Okay. So the first round when he was 17, there was no vaccine.
Correct.
Yes. And then I guess when he had it at the age of 51, I'm sure at that point he thought I already had it. Why?
It was invented but it was actually never really first used until 1961.
Okay, so maybe that's
why he got it twice.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So he had some challenges. Let's say this again: colorblind, dyslexic, tone deaf. He also had kind of a bad reputation from the American Medical Association because they tried to revoke his practitioner's license in the 50s. And I think a lot of it was just their doubt or suspicion of hypnosis in general at that time in the 50s. So Erickson's the reason he got so wrapped up in hypnosis is because he used it to overcome his own physical limitations.
Oh wow!
You know, having a physical disability, colorblind, tone deaf. What was the other one I said? I missed one. Dyslexic.
Oh,
yeah, that too. So you know what amazes me about when I hear stories like this about people? You're dyslexic, but you went through school, got a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and became a doctor. Imagine how difficult that would be if you are dyslexic.
Right, especially back in that day.
I mean, how would you even start? You can't even read hardly.
Wow. I'm just trying to...
Oh!
Yeah.
Great Odin's Raven!
It's crazy.
What am I looking at here?
Yeah, it's like, what is this? So here's where our Michigan connection comes in, people, our Detroit connection. Erickson became director of psychiatric research and training at the Eloise State Hospital in Wayne County, Michigan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was in Wayne County.
Yep. And you know Eloise, right?
I know of Eloise.
Yep. That's one I took the tour of about a month ago.
Oh, right.
The closed down hospital. It's
Yes.
right at Merriman and I'm not going to remember the cross streets, so don't hold me to this, people. But so for those of you not in the Detroit area who don't know about it, Eloise was a state mental hospital for years and shut down. Oh gosh, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Somewhere right around there. It's been abandoned ever since. So I took a tour of the empty hospital a few weeks back, and they go on like ghost tours in there and things like that.
Right,
so it's kind of I would say it's kind of a tourist attraction in a way, not tourist, but for people who want to, you know.
Was this a Halloween thing that you did?
It was near Halloween, yes. Yeah. It was right in Halloween season. It was before the Halloween holiday.
Gotcha.
So yeah, he actually was the director of psychiatric research at Eloise, which is fascinating to me because he was right in our area.
Does it say how long he was there for?
It doesn't. Oh well, it doesn't give dates. I could probably find those, but so he was here, and then from here he moved to Arizona and was the clinical director of the Arizona State Hospital in 1948. From which he retired a year later to concentrate on teaching, writing, and private practice.
But Doc, it's a dry heat.
And then here's some interesting side facts. He was an associate editor for the Journal for Diseases of the Nervous System, a consultant to the U.S. Olympic Rifle Team.
Wow.
And a consultant to the U.S. government during World War II.
Jeez.
Studying the psychology of the enemy and the effects of propaganda.
Oh, wow. He is right at the forefront of it all.
Yes.
It really
yeah.
was.
And really the effects of propaganda, that's something I really like to get into as far as what he did with that. That really fascinates me.
Sure.
So Erickson, that was kind of his history of where he was, what he did. He really developed this whole approach to hypnosis that was different than what had been done before. Because prior to that, the most notable name was Freud, who didn't even stick with it that long. Mm-hmm. He didn't even take hold of it, and he quit very early in his career with it. So Erickson believed in flexibility. And what I mean by that is he felt that you have to adapt your approach to each individual client, that it wasn't just one process for everyone that always works. And this is the beginning of this whole theory of mental health that happened as well, of what we call client-centered therapy. And I know that seems it would be, well, wouldn't all therapy be client-centered? Mm-hmm. But there are some approaches that take this is how you do it, follow these steps, and it doesn't take into account the personal situation or feelings or actions or history. So client-centered is really getting to know the client, how they think, how they feel, and what's going to work best for them. So Erickson knew that hypnosis works, but he realized that it had to be modified for every person to fit their individual situation.
Because no one is the same.
Absolutely.
It's not a one-size-fits-all in therapy. Yep. Absolutely not.
So sometimes he would be direct or authoritarian or even aggressive at times. Mm-hmm. But then other times he would be very indirect or soothing or permissive. Okay. Again, depending on the personality. Hey,
real quick, speaking of one size fits all,
yeah.
Alan actually just chimed in.
Oh, Alan's here. Hey, Alan.
He said, hey, glad it's
Thanks,
Friday.
Alan. As usual, Alan.
What the fuck are you doing?
Great to see you again, Alan. Appreciate you checking in. Yeah. I don't know if you were on earlier, Alan. I'll admit it now. I drew a blank on your name right up front, and we're like, "Oh, where's our regular? Where's our usual guy?" And then I remembered soon after that. So don't worry.
I called him Lance. So,
and then in the middle of a read, I remembered it was Alan. So yeah, thanks for being here, Alan. We appreciate it. So here's a great story about Erickson being flexible and adapting to your client's needs, or what they might need, but they might not think they need. Because it says here sometimes he was direct and aggressive.
Well, sometimes you have to be.
Yep. So there was a man who was left paralyzed and unable to speak by a severe stroke. Now I'm not going to say this is proper or should ever be done. Erickson verbally abused the client to such a shocking degree that the man suddenly got up and walked out of the room, telling Erickson exactly what he thought of him as he did so. An almost miraculous instant cure.
That's brilliant.
Isn't that a great story?
That's brilliant.
He just pissed him off so much that
I don't know what we're yelling about.
I'm out.
That the guy he got up and walked out and had not been able to walk before that.
I can't talk. You can take your therapy and hold on a second. What just happened?
Yeah, it's great. It's a great, and I'm assuming. I'm going to assume this is a true story because I took it from a lot of his biography things online. So
fair enough.
It wasn't like a made up Facebook post, like we see.
But still, to go back,
right.
Everyone is different when it comes to therapy.
And this guy needed to be pushed.
And he saw that in that individual. And
he just knew that this was something that he would probably respond to. So that's the first key element is flexibility. The second one is working with symptoms to bring about change. So Erickson saw he saw problems as a process of an unhelpful way of doing things. So he's not identifying somebody who has a problem and saying, "Oh, you're just screwed up. That's just the way it is." He recognized that the problem was just an unhealthy way of thinking. And if we know that, then we just know from that point we just change the thinking. Which, again, is the whole theme of this podcast.
Change your thinking.
Change your thinking, change your life.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what he did was he changed he developed a process where he would change the symptom. So its intensity, its frequency, its location. What his thought was, if you change the pattern of the problem, it becomes different. And then the client realizes, oh, we can change this. It doesn't have to be the problem like I believed it was. So here's another example of something that he would have done or that he did. So somebody with a compulsive urge to wash their hands 50 times a day. That's a form of OCD. Yes. It's an anxiety disorder.
Obsessive-compulsive disorder?
Obsessive-compulsive disorder. So that comes from stress and anxiety, that these people feel this compulsion to have to do something to make it right in their head. And they feel like if they don't do it, that it causes them so much anxiety.
One of my most favorite actors, Jack Nicholson. He played a character in a movie
as good as it gets.
Yes. And he played the perfect person that had OCD because he had so many things that had to be a certain way.
Yep.
Yes.
And that's, in a way, I've dealt a lot with OCD over the years with a lot of clients, and it's just a way for them to feel safe and structured, that if things are in order, I can feel good. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, if they're not in order, that just throws them off. Mm-hmm. They get so anxious that they can't function.
Absolutely correct, yeah.
So somebody who is compelled to wash their hands 50 times a day, Erickson would say, okay, I don't want you to wash your hands 50 times a day. I want you to do it 100 times a day. That's a requirement. So now he's taking it out of being a compulsion and made it a demand, which makes the whole scenario, it just changes the whole viewpoint on it.
Right. It's
now not, and I'm going to read how they worded it. It changes the behavior from an internal compulsion to an externally imposed chore, which suddenly becomes less compelling.
Right.
Yeah.
And it won't have that much control as time goes on.
Right, because now it's being forced on you. It's not you. It's not this internal compulsion. Now it's not as it doesn't give you the same satisfaction because you're being forced to do it from an exterior source. Yeah.
Maybe I should start taking the trash out 5 times a week then.
Right. Yes, and then you'd hate it. Yeah, then you wouldn't.
Oh, good for you.
Just saying.
You could try it, man. Yeah.
Just saying.
So the third element that we're going to cover is that he wanted to engage the unconscious mind by any means available. So he firmly believed that the unconscious mind contained all of the resources to bring about change. And he wanted to tap into that by any means that he could. And here's a great statement, and this is where he differed vastly from Freud's thinking. Erickson had no time for the Freudian notion that the roots of problems have to be excavated from the distant past. So Erickson said, we don't need to dig up this problem that happened when you were 5 years old. We don't have to do that work and do years of therapy to dig that up and get it out. Right. We just need to change the unconscious mind. We need to change the thought pattern.
And almost the habit.
Yes, right. Habit, exactly. You know, we talk about habits a lot. Habits are mental as well as physical. And I know I've used this example with Matt as well before. People who smoke. A lot of times they'll tell you they don't remember lighting it. It's just this thing that happens in their head.
How'd that get there?
It's like, whoa, what's going on? So Milton used a lot of, again, as I said before, client-centered approach to therapy and really making it individualized. And what we're going to do is we're going to cover his techniques as far as different techniques he used for hypnosis and also for therapy, and get into detail about all of those techniques. And I'll just give you a couple of sneak peeks on these. Hand levitation was one. Now, when I say hand levitation, people are like, what? What are you talking about?
When you say hand levitation, to me, it's me putting the backs of my hands on the inside of the door, pushing for 30 seconds, and then my hands raising up.
Oh, and you feel that, yeah.
And then that levitation of your hands.
You're right, because that would be the feeling.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of times when I'm hypnotizing someone, and we'll get into language in this in a minute, but I'll say, your hands might feel super heavy. They might feel super light. In fact, you might feel like there's a bunch of helium balloons just pulling your hands up.
Interesting.
And then if I see the hands come up, then I already know they're accepting suggestions. We've already made that connection in the unconscious mind.
Fair.
And I'll give one other one that is kind of a good one. Shocks and ordeals. Shocks and ordeals. Yes. Okay. And I'll tease that a little bit. If you've ever been startled or your mind has been jerked, or it's that the best way I can describe it is if somebody sneaks up and just startles you and all of a sudden you're boom, it's just a shock to your system. Right. And your adrenaline is pumping now and your heart's beating and you're shaky. At that moment that startle, that flood of adrenaline happens to you, your mind is not thinking. It's call it an awakening. Yeah. And even more than that, because as soon as your mind is that confused, it's looking for order. It's looking for direction. And as soon as you give it direction at that point, it's going to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get into more details of that. And then we're going to continue with Milton Erickson coming up in the next episode. So make sure, because there's a lot of cool things that we have that of the way he did hypnosis. And again, a couple of those examples I just gave you, but a lot of good stuff in that one. So join us next time, Milton Erickson Part 2. We'll call it Uncle Milty Part 2. In the meantime, change your thinking, change your life, laugh hard, run fast, be kind. I will see you next time.